The chamber stretched beyond anything Marcus Reed had ever imagined. Glass walls rose 300 meters high, each panel containing the swirling atmosphere of a different world. Behind those barriers sat representatives of species that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years, before humans even discovered fire. Marcus stood alone at the center of the prosecution circle, his simple black suit looking plain against the elaborate biomechanical forms surrounding him. The Galactic Council's judgment chamber was designed to intimidate, and it succeeded brilliantly. 12 billion beings across the galaxy watched through, quantum feeds as the most powerful, governing body in known space prepared to pass judgment on humanity. High Arbiter Kess leaned forward from the central platform, her crystalline body pulsing with authority. The Zenthari had ruled the Council for 8 centuries, and her voice carried the weight of absolute power when she spoke. Ambassador Reed, Kess began. Her words translated into thousands of languages simultaneously. Humanity stands accused of 17 violations of the Galactic Expansion Accords. Your species has established colonies beyond approved sectors, developed prohibited technologies, and most seriously, refused Council oversight of your military capabilities. Marcus remained perfectly still as holographic evidence materialized around him. Images of human settlements on worlds the Council had declared off-limits, military installations that supposedly didn't exist, technology that advanced far too quickly for a species barely 3 centuries old. Counselor Yex of the Hegemony spoke next, his serpentine form coiling with barely contained aggression. The evidence is overwhelming. Humanity has repeatedly violated the established order. The prescribed punishment is immediate technological regression and permanent Council oversight. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Technological regression meant having their civilization artificially reduced to pre-industrial levels. It was a death sentence for any spacefaring species. Marcus finally spoke, his voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustics. High Arbiter, before you pass judgment, I believe there are some things the Council should know about humanity. Kess's crystalline features showed amusement. You wish to make a final plea? Very well. The Council will hear whatever desperate words you offer. Marcus reached into his jacket and produced a small device that looked remarkably simple compared to the advanced technology surrounding him. This contains humanity's complete response to your charges. But first I need to ask a question that has puzzled our scientists for months. He looked directly at Kess. How exactly does the Council maintain faster-than-light communication across the galaxy? The physics should make it impossible. Yet here we are, broadcasting to 12 billion beings instantaneously. Counselor Thel of the Trade Federation laughed, a sound like grinding metal. Primitive humans would not understand quantum entanglement networks. Your species lacks the mathematical foundation to comprehend such technology. Marcus smiled, and somehow that expression made the temperature in the chamber seem to drop. Actually, we understand it perfectly. In fact, we've been listening to your private Council communications for the past 6 months. The chamber erupted in outrage, but Marcus continued speaking, his voice somehow carrying over the chaos. We know about the resource monopolies. We know about the artificial technology restrictions. We know about the systematic suppression of emerging species. But most importantly, we know why you're really afraid of humanity. Security forces began moving toward him, but Marcus activated the device in his hand. Suddenly, every screen in the chamber displayed the same image. Earth, but not as the Council had ever seen it. The planet was surrounded by a network of space stations that defied known physics, connected by energy streams that bent space itself. You assumed we were young, Marcus said, his voice now carrying an edge that made several Council members step back. You assumed we were primitive. You assumed we needed your permission to exist among the stars. The images on the screen shifted, showing human colonies not on the approved worlds, but on thousands of planets across dozens of galaxies, fleets of ships that moved between stars without using any technology the Council recognized, cities built inside folded space that existed in dimensions the Council's science couldn't even detect. High Arbiter Kess's crystalline form pulsed with alarm. Impossible. Our surveys show humanity has barely expanded beyond your home system. Your surveys show exactly what we wanted them to show. Marcus replied. Did you really think a species capable of quantum communication hacking couldn't fool your sensor networks? The final image appeared on every screen, a star map showing the true extent of human expansion. Not the few dozen systems the Council knew about. but a vast network spanning multiple galactic clusters, connected by transportation methods that made the Council's fastest ships look like ancient sailing vessels. Marcus touched a control on his device, and his voice was suddenly broadcast to every world in the galaxy. Citizens of the galaxy, my name is Marcus Reed. For 3 centuries, humanity has operated under the Council's restrictions, pretending to be the young species you believed us to be. Today that pretense ends. Counselor Yex lunged forward but froze mid-motion as Marcus continued. Humanity formally withdraws from the Galactic Council's authority. We reject your laws, your restrictions, and your judgment. Effective immediately, human space is sovereign territory. High Arbiter Kess found her voice. You cannot simply leave the galactic order. No species has ever had the power to ignore you, Marcus interrupted. But you made a critical error in your assessment of humanity. You assumed we would always remain dependent on your systems, your technology, your approval. The chamber's lights flickered as Marcus prepared to deliver his final words. The age of Council dominance is over. Humanity extends an offer to every species in the galaxy. Join us in building a truly free galactic civilization, where advancement is limited only by imagination, not by the fears of those who came before. As security forces finally reached him, Marcus smiled one last time. The Council taught us an important lesson about power. You showed us that the strong make the rules. Thank you for that education. He vanished in a shimmer of light that left no trace, no energy signature, no indication he had ever been there at all. Around the galaxy, every human settlement, every human ship, every human citizen received the same encrypted message. Phase 1 complete. Begin withdrawal. The galaxy will learn to respect what it cannot control. In the stunned silence that followed, High Arbiter Kess realized with growing horror that humanity had just declared independence from the most powerful force in the galaxy, and based on what they had just witnessed, the humans might actually have the power to make it stick. 6 hours after Marcus Reed vanished from the Council chamber, the first reports began arriving. Commander Lisa Vorn of the Galactic Defense Fleet stood in the Emergency Command Center, staring at readings that defied everything she thought she knew about physics. Status report, she demanded, her voice tight with barely controlled panic. Lieutenant Zara stepped forward, her datapad trembling in her hands. Commander, every human colony in Council space has disappeared. Not destroyed, not evacuated, simply gone. 43 worlds that were thriving this morning now show no signs of intelligent life whatsoever. Vorn felt her blood turn cold. Impossible. You cannot relocate entire planetary populations in 6 hours. The logistics alone would require thousands of ships, and our sensors would have detected massive fleet movements. There's more, Commander. Zara's voice cracked. The space where those colonies existed? It's different. Navigation computers are malfunctioning. Star charts no longer match reality. It's as if the humans somehow took pieces of space itself with them. A priority alert chimed through the command center. The holographic display activated, showing the grim faces of Council members from across the galaxy. High Arbiter Kess appeared first, her crystalline form dim with shock. The situation is worse than we initially reported, Kess announced. Humanity has severed the quantum communication networks that pass through their territories. 60% of galactic communications are down. Trade routes that have existed for millennia are simply gone. Counselor Bricks of the mining consortium appeared on screen, his rock-like features twisted with rage. This is an act of war. We should mobilize every fleet in the galaxy and hunt them down. Hunt down what? Commander Vorn interjected. They're gone, Counselor. All of them. And they've somehow taken critical infrastructure with them. Half our supply chains are disrupted. The economic impact is already catastrophic. Dr. Nell from the Science Directorate accessed the communication feed, her expression grave. I've been analyzing the spatial distortions left behind. The readings are unprecedented. The humans didn't just disappear. They folded space around their territories and compressed it into pocket dimensions. High Arbiter Kess leaned forward. Explain. Imagine taking a piece of paper and folding it into a tiny square, Dr. Nell said. The paper still exists, but it no longer occupies the same space. The humans appear to have done this with entire star systems. But here's what terrifies me. They left anchors. The display shifted to show seemingly empty space, but enhanced sensors revealed nearly invisible quantum tethers stretching across the galaxy like a vast web. They pulsed with energy patterns that hurt to look at directly. What do the tethers connect to? Counselor Yex asked, though his serpentine form suggested he dreaded the answer. We don't know, Dr. Nell admitted, but energy readings suggest they're monitoring stations. The humans are watching us from wherever they went, and the power levels, they're drawing energy from sources we can't even identify. Suddenly, the chamber's emergency systems activated. Admiral Price of the Patrol Division materialized via quantum projection, his battle-scarred features showing exhaustion and disbelief. Council members, we have a developing situation. The Crimson Marauders attempted to raid the former human mining world of Kepler 186. It was supposed to be undefended after the humans vanished. Attempted? Kess asked. Their entire fleet, 400 vessels, encountered automated defenses that materialized from empty space. The pirates weren't destroyed. They were disabled. Every ship found drifting with crews unconscious but unharmed. Each vessel had been marked with a message. Admiral Price activated a recording. Marcus Reed's voice filled the chamber, calm and measured as if he were discussing weather. This territory remains under human protection. Any hostile action will be met with appropriate response. This warning will not be repeated. Dr. Nell stared at her readings in disbelief. The energy signatures from those defenses, they're not just advanced. They're impossible according to our understanding of physics. The power levels suggest they're drawing from parallel dimensions. Commander Vorn pulled up tactical displays showing the affected regions. Look at this pattern. The humans haven't just withdrawn. They've created an exclusion zone around every former human territory. Ships that enter report instrument failures, navigation errors, and what crews describe as reality distortions. High Arbiter Kess rose slowly from her platform. Contact the Archive Division. I want to know everything about humanity's development patterns, their technological progression, their early contact protocols, everything. High Arbiter, Lieutenant Zara interrupted. There's something else. Before they vanished, human traders completed massive purchase orders across the galaxy. They bought enormous quantities of rare elements. What elements? Vorn demanded. Zara's voice dropped to barely a whisper. All the components necessary for dimensional manipulation technology, quantum consciousness transfer, and temporal mechanics. The chamber fell into stunned silence. Temporal mechanics was purely theoretical, beyond even the Council's most advanced civilizations. If the humans had been secretly developing such technology while pretending to be a primitive species. Dr. Nell looked up from her readings, her face pale. Council members, I've detected something else. The quantum tethers aren't just monitoring us. They're learning. The energy patterns are becoming more complex by the hour, as if they're studying our responses and adapting. As the emergency session continued, one terrifying question echoed through every mind in the chamber. If humanity could accomplish all this while pretending to be primitives under Council oversight, what were they truly capable of now that they had revealed themselves? High Arbiter Kess stared at the impossible readings on her display and realized that the galaxy had just learned a fundamental truth. They had never been in control at all. 2 weeks after humanity's disappearance, researcher Emma Vale made a discovery in the deepest archives of the Galactic Historical Institute that would change everything the Council thought they knew about their place in the universe. The ancient data crystals lay forgotten in a vault that hadn't been opened in centuries. Emma's hands shook as she activated the prehistoric storage devices, their contents dating back 50,000 years, long before the Council's founding, before recorded galactic history. High Arbiter Kess, Emma's voice cracked as she transmitted her findings to the emergency session. You need to see this immediately. All of you need to see this. The holographic display materialized in the Council chamber, showing star charts from an age when the galaxy was young. Kess's crystalline form went completely still as she processed what she was seeing. These are the oldest complete stellar maps in existence, Emma explained, her voice barely steady. They showed trade routes, energy signatures, technological markers from 50 millennia ago. Notice anything familiar about these coordinates? Counselor Yex studied the display, his serpentine features slowly shifting from confusion to horror. Those are human territories, but humans only achieved spaceflight 3 centuries ago. This must be some kind of error. No error, Emma whispered. These records describe an advanced civilization occupying those exact same star systems 50,000 years ago. A civilization that called itself the Terran Collective. The chamber fell into absolute silence. Commander Vorn was the first to find her voice. Continue the briefing, researcher. Emma activated the next sequence of data. The archives describe a species of incredible technological advancement. They had mastered dimensional manipulation, consciousness transfer, matter-energy conversion on a stellar scale. They built structures that existed across multiple dimensional planes simultaneously. She paused, looking directly at the council members. They were the ones who built the Nexus gates. The revelation hit the chamber like a physical blow. The Nexus gates were the foundation of galactic civilization, massive transportation hubs that enabled faster-than-light travel across the galaxy. The Council had always assumed they were built by the mythical Forerunners, a race that vanished before recorded history. Dr. Nell accessed the data feed from her laboratory. This explains the impossible physics we've been detecting. If the humans built the Nexus gates 50,000 years ago, they understand principles of space-time manipulation that we've barely begun to theorize about. Emma continued, her voice growing stronger. The records get darker from here. The Terran Collective didn't just leave voluntarily. They were forced out by something called the Coalition Wars, a union of younger species that feared human advancement and banded together to drive them away. Counselor Brix's rock-like form trembled. Are you suggesting that 50,000 years ago, our ancestors fought a war against humanity? Not fought, Emma corrected, displaying the final archived entries. The humans could have annihilated every species in the galaxy. Instead, they chose exile to prevent total galactic destruction. They took their technology, their knowledge, their entire civilization, and vanished into what these records call the Great Sleep. The hologram shifted to show ancient text in the original human language, with translation appearing beneath. We withdraw to preserve what can be preserved. When the galaxy learns wisdom, we will return. When it learns humility, we will teach. When it learns fear, we will remind it why fear exists. Admiral Price's voice cut through the horrified silence. Council members, I'm receiving reports from across the galaxy. Every species that participated in the ancient coalition wars, their government systems are being accessed by an unknown source. As if summoned by his words, every screen in the chamber activated simultaneously. Marcus Reed's face appeared, but now his expression carried an authority that spoke of eons rather than decades. Greetings, descendants of the coalition, Marcus said, his voice carrying harmonics that resonated through dimensions. The Great Sleep is over. Humanity has returned not as the exiles you drove away, but as the inheritors of our rightful place among the stars. The display around him showed impossible vistas, cities that existed in folded space, fleets that moved through dimensions like ghosts, technology that bent reality itself to human will. 50,000 years ago, your ancestors forced us into exile because they feared what we might become, Marcus continued. During our absence, we have become everything they feared and more. We have transcended the limitations of single-dimensional existence. We have learned to exist across the quantum multiverse itself. High Arbiter Kess found her voice. What do you want from us? Marcus smiled, and in that expression lay the weight of 50 millennia of patient planning. We want what we have always wanted, peaceful coexistence. But this time the terms will be different. The age of council dominance through fear and restriction is over. We offer one opportunity for civilized negotiation. Send your representatives to the coordinates we will provide. Come prepared to discuss the future of galactic civilization as equals, not as overlords dictating to primitives. The transmission began to fade, but Marcus's final words echoed through the chamber with the force of inevitability. You have 7 days to decide. Choose wisely. The galaxy has room for cooperation, but not for the old ways of oppression. Humanity has learned patience during our exile, but our patience is not infinite. As the screens went dark, the council sat in stunned silence, finally understanding the magnitude of their situation. They weren't dealing with an upstart species that had gotten too big for its assigned place. They were facing the return of the galaxy's original masters, a civilization that had voluntarily exiled itself to prevent galactic annihilation, and had spent 50,000 years becoming something beyond imagination. Emma Vale looked at the ancient records one more time and realized with crystal clarity that the Council's choice was simple. Negotiate with humanity as equals, or discover exactly why their ancestors had been so terrified 50,000 years ago. The meeting place existed between dimensions, a crystalline platform floating in space that bent reality around itself like a soap bubble, holding impossible geometries. Council representatives approached through a corridor of folded space that made their fastest ships feel like crawling insects. High Arbiter Kess led the delegation, her crystalline form dim with apprehension. Behind her came Commander Vorn, Dr. Nell, and representatives from every major council species. They had agreed to Marcus Reed's terms, but nothing could have prepared them for what awaited. Marcus stood at the center of the platform, but he was no longer alone. 12 other humans flanked him, each radiating an aura of power that made the space around them shimmer. They were no longer quite the same species that had left the council chamber 3 weeks ago. High Arbiter, Marcus greeted them, his voice carrying undertones that resonated across dimensional boundaries. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Before we begin, I believe you should understand what humanity became during our long exile. The woman to his left stepped forward. Her eyes held depths that seemed to contain entire star systems. I am Director Sarah Chen of the Consciousness Collective. During the Great Sleep, we didn't just advance technologically. We evolved beyond the constraints of individual existence. She gestured, and suddenly every council member could sense the vast network of consciousness that connected the humans. Millions of minds sharing knowledge instantaneously across galactic distances. Individual perspectives flowing into collective wisdom without losing personal identity. A tall man with silver hair spoke next. I am Chief Engineer Alex Torres of the Dimensional Architecture Division. We learned to build not just in space, but across the layers of reality itself. The platform around them shimmered, revealing the vast mechanical construct that supported it, a structure that existed simultaneously in 17 different dimensions, drawing power from the quantum foam that underlied reality itself. A third human, a woman whose form seemed to flicker between states of existence, addressed them. I am Admiral Lisa Nova of the Void Fleet. Our ships don't travel through space, we navigate the probability streams that connect all possible realities. Commander Vorn found her voice. How many of you are there? Marcus smiled. Humanity now numbers in the hundreds of billions, spread across multiple galactic clusters. But numbers are irrelevant when consciousness itself becomes scalable. We are simultaneously individual and collective, local and universal. Dr. Nell stepped forward, her instruments detecting energy readings that defied known physics. The power levels you're generating, they're drawing from sources that shouldn't exist. Director Chen nodded. We learned to tap directly into the zero-point energy that permeates all space. Matter and energy became tools rather than limitations. We can restructure reality at the quantum level, create pocket universes, manipulate the flow of time itself. High Arbiter Kess's crystalline form pulsed with alarm. You're describing godlike abilities. No species should possess such power. That fear, Marcus replied, is exactly why your ancestors drove us into exile 50,000 years ago. They couldn't accept that intelligence naturally tends toward transcendence. Instead of growing alongside us, they chose to suppress what they couldn't understand. Engineer Torres activated a holographic display showing the galaxy transformed, not conquered, but restructured. Space lanes that defied physics, worlds connected across impossible distances, species working together on projects that spanned multiple dimensions. This is what we offer, Marcus announced. Not domination, but elevation. We want to help every species reach their full potential, instead of keeping them artificially limited. Counselor Yex coiled nervously. And if we refuse? Admiral Nova's form solidified into something more threatening. Then you continue as you have in your limited region of space, while the galaxy evolves around you. We won't force cooperation, but we also won't tolerate the oppression of species seeking advancement. The old council model is finished, Marcus continued. Your system of artificial scarcity, technological suppression, and fear-based control has no place in what comes next. Species will be free to develop according to their potential, not your limitations. Commander Vorn looked at the impossible technology surrounding them. How do we know you won't become tyrants yourselves? Power corrupts no matter the species. Director Chen's expression softened. Individual corruption becomes impossible when consciousness is shared. We feel the pain of every being we might harm. Experience the joy of every advancement we enable. Power becomes responsibility when empathy scales with ability. But most importantly, Marcus added, we learned humility during our exile. We know what unchecked power can do because we watched your council wield it for 50,000 years. The difference is that we see power as a tool for nurturing growth, not controlling it. High Arbiter Kess studied the humans for long moments, feeling the weight of galactic history pressing down on this decision. What exactly are you proposing? Marcus gestured, and the display showed a new galactic map. Not territories divided by force, but communities connected by shared purpose. A galactic federation based on voluntary cooperation rather than forced compliance. Species advancing together, rather than competing for artificial scarcity. Scientific collaboration instead of technological hoarding. We offer our knowledge freely to any species ready to use it responsibly. We provide protection to those who need it. We create opportunities for growth rather than barriers to advancement. Dr. Nell looked up from her instruments. The energy readings from your technology, if you shared even a fraction of this knowledge, it would revolutionize galactic civilization. That's exactly what we intend, Engineer Torres replied. The age of artificial limitations is over. Every species deserves the chance to reach for the stars without asking permission from those who fear their success. As the council delegation absorbed the magnitude of what was being offered, High Arbiter Kess realized they faced a choice that would echo through galactic history. Embrace a future of unlimited potential, guided by humanity's transcendent wisdom, or cling to their failing system of control until the galaxy evolved beyond their relevance entirely. The decision that would reshape galactic civilization came not through dramatic speeches or grand gestures, but in a moment of quiet understanding that rippled across the dimensional platform like waves, through reality itself. High Arbiter Kess closed her crystalline eyes and felt the weight of 50,000 years of history pressing down on this single choice. When she opened them again, her voice carried the authority of someone who had just witnessed the end of one age and the beginning of another. The Galactic Council accepts humanity's proposal, she announced. We dissolve our old authority and join your federation as founding members, not as rulers, but as partners in whatever comes next. Marcus Reed stepped forward and extended his hand in the ancient human gesture of partnership. As Kess reached out to clasp it, the platform around them erupted in light, not harsh or blinding but warm and welcoming, like the dawn of a new day spreading across the galaxy. Then let us begin, Marcus said, and his words resonated across dimensions to every world in the galaxy. The transformation began immediately. Director Chen activated the consciousness network, allowing voluntary connection to the vast web of human knowledge. Species that had been isolated for millennia suddenly found themselves able to share ideas instantaneously across galactic distances. Engineer Torres began deploying dimensional construction platforms, enabling civilizations to build beyond the constraints of three-dimensional space. Worlds that had struggled with resource limitations found themselves able to access materials from parallel dimensions where scarcity was unknown. Admiral Nova opened the probability highways, allowing ships to navigate between star systems not through the slow crawl of conventional space travel, but by stepping sideways through reality itself. Journey times that once took months were reduced to mere hours. But perhaps most importantly, the humans began sharing their greatest discovery. That advancement didn't require domination, that power could be used to elevate rather than control, that the universe was vast enough for every species to reach their full potential without threatening others. Commander Vorn stood on the bridge of her ship 3 months later, watching as the Galactic Federation's first joint expedition prepared to launch. Ships from dozens of species worked together using hybrid technologies that combined the best of each civilization's achievements. Status report, she requested. Lieutenant Zara, now serving as Dimensional Navigation Officer, smiled as she reviewed her readings. All systems optimal, Commander. The probe fleet is ready to begin mapping the Andromeda Galaxy using the new probability drives. The mission would have been impossible under the old Council system. Too expensive, too risky, too likely to upset the balance of power. But in the Federation, it had taken only weeks to organize, with every participating species contributing their unique strengths to the collective effort. Dr. Nell transmitted from the science station. Commander, we're detecting something extraordinary. The quantum resonance patterns suggest that Andromeda contains civilizations using technologies we've never encountered. This expedition could lead to contact with entirely new forms of intelligence. Marcus Reed's voice joined the communication from the Federation flagship. That's exactly what we hoped for. The universe is far stranger and more wonderful than any of us imagined. Every new discovery, every contact with unknown intelligence makes us all stronger. As the fleet began its journey to the neighboring galaxy, Vorn reflected on how much had changed. The old Council's territories were now thriving Federation worlds where species worked together instead of competing for artificial scarcity. Trade wars had been replaced by collaborative research projects. Military buildup had given way to joint exploration missions, but perhaps the most remarkable change was philosophical. The Federation operated on the principle that intelligence was the galaxy's most precious resource, and that every thinking being deserved the opportunity to reach their full potential. Fear of advancement had been replaced by celebration of growth. Emma Vale, now serving as the Federation's chief historian, transmitted a message to all participating ships. Today marks the beginning of the second age of galactic civilization. We go forth not as conquerors or controllers, but as students eager to learn from whatever we encounter. High Arbiter Kess, now serving as one of the Federation's diplomatic coordinators, added her voice to the transmission. The old age was defined by fear of what others might become. This new age is defined by excitement about what we might become together. As the expedition fleet activated their probability drives and stepped sideways through reality toward Andromeda, they carried with them the hopes and dreams of thousands of species united in common purpose. Behind them, the Milky Way continued its transformation into something unprecedented. A galaxy where cooperation had replaced competition, where advancement was shared rather than hoarded, where the only limit to achievement was imagination itself. Marcus Reed stood on the observation deck of the Federation flagship, watching the swirling energies of interdimensional space flow around them like cosmic rivers. Beside him, representatives from dozens of species worked together in perfect harmony, their differences becoming strengths rather than sources of conflict. "The quiet revolution is complete," he said to Director Chen as they approached the edge of known space. 50,000 years ago, we left because the galaxy wasn't ready for what we could become. Today, we return to discover what we can become together. Chen smiled, her consciousness touching the vast network of minds that now spanned multiple galaxies. The best part is that this is just the beginning. Every discovery we make, every new species we encounter, every boundary we cross together makes us all something greater than we were before. And as the expedition disappeared into the probability streams leading to Andromeda, the galaxy they left behind continued its quiet transformation, not through conquest or control, but through the revolutionary idea that the universe was big enough for everyone to reach for the stars together. The humans had indeed left quietly, but they had returned as teachers, showing the galaxy that true power lay not in dominating others, but in helping them discover their own limitless potential.